Takže poprosila by som teraz Matiju, aby nám prišiel prezentovať svoje myšlienky, ideje a projekty.
Krátko ešte predstavím. Matija Bevk, ateliér BEVK-PEROVIĆ je držiteľom množstvo súťaží, víťazom mnohých súťaží doma i v zahraničí. Ich práce boli nominované na cenu Pecnik & Presseren, ocenenie Red Dot Award a samozrejme cena Miss van der Rohe. Matija sa narodil v Lublane, jeho partner v ateliéri Vása Perovič je z Belehradu. Zaujímavé je a jeden z mnohých dôvodov, prečo sme ich pozvali, je, že všetci, ktorí sme v profesii, tak evidujeme, že slovinská architektúra má naozaj vysoký kredit a myslíme si, že práve tento ateliér razí si úspešne cestu európskou architektonickou scénou, takže rádi by sme od Matiu počuli, že čo má nového.
Hello, good day. First of all, thank you for the invitation. It's very nice to be here. Although I had to wake up really early in the morning to come here. But anyway, it's very nice. I also very much like the event and what I have seen or heard still now. First of all, I have to apologize because I'm not going to show passive houses because we don't do passive houses yet. Maybe we still have to learn how to do this. But I will do my best to explain what we think or what I think about sustainability and how to deal with projects and how to integrate the projects in the society and the environment and how to actually see the environment as a starting point for developing projects. This is our office. Just to have a feeling, this is me. I'm a bit younger here, and my partner. This is city of Ljubljana. We always show this picture because I think every architecture is in a way coming from the specific situation in which is being born. It means it's, of course, it's a cultural background, it's economical background, it's the technological background, and of course also all other conditions that we have to put and merge together and find a way to do the project. And in a way we have one motto, one sentence we always use, all we find are conditions. It means that we always try to understand the complete or very broad situation of not just context, but conditions in which you have to build a project, starting with the program, of course, with the budget and with everything that comes that you can use for the project. I think you know at least a bit Slovenia. Slovenia is very small. Because it's so small, there are also, of course, a lot of influences we can get from, or we get from, or we did also get in the past from neighboring countries. And as you can see, let's say 600 kilometers circle, which is very easily reachable by car, also touches Slovakia. Slovenia is, I will show just a bit of conditions in Slovenia because I think this is quite important. It's a lot about nature. No? These are, by the way, my parents enjoying the sun. There is a lot of also traditional buildings or buildings which we think still exist. They exist just in small numbers and they are somehow all the time in the background as a background of Slovenian architecture, although the sad truth is many times much different. We have devastations of the villages, of the cities, cities are growing over everything. I think this is another fact which is not just in Slovenia, but in all over Europe. We have architecture is somehow written in the history, identity of Slovenia. This is a building by Jožef Plečnik, National Library in Ljubljana, somehow father of the Slovenian architecture, and one of my most beloved building by him. It's service building which is sitting on the cemetery in Slovenia, done by Plečnik. But why I like it, because somehow you see the layers of all the influences that he had in his mind when he was doing this. There is, of course, modern architecture. Is our functionalist building from the 70s by another person, another architect, which we like. It's Edvard Ravnikar, and maybe the one which I admire most is this simple building done by Oton Jugovec. It's in a way very modern. It's just a cover above the ruins, Roman ruins, somewhere close to Croatian border. At the same time, it's very traditional. So it's he's trying to build his architecture out of everything that he knows and he thinks that influences. When we think about buildings, we always have to deal what is a starting point, and we try to see building as a kind of instrument which is in a certain kind of communication with the environment, with the communication in a way that it changes the environment, it changes the context, but it's also influenced by it. So if I continue from this point, the sustainability which we are interested in is, in my opinion, much broader, I think, than just having a very good isolated building, but it should be a building which develops a relationship to the surrounding, which is integrated, and which, in a way, it's we should not forget just a frame for life that takes place. No? This is Renaissance painting from Italy, actually, and it just shows that the building, whatever it is, it's always just something that contains the life. No, that actually the life is the main reason for the architecture, not the architecture itself. I will do a kind of let's say overview across our projects. Some are older, some are younger. Some are public and some are private houses. And with all the projects, I think, and everything that's behind the project, I think we can always talk about certain responsibility that we have. Responsibility against individual user, against the society, against the family if it's a house, against the public, and of course also against issues, contemporary issues like energy, environment, etc. This is the Faculty of Mathematics that we did quite some years ago, which had this strange situation, a strange condition that it should be built on top of another building. So rather than destroying the existing building, there was a plan to use this existing building as a kind of foundation, and this foundation would be the basis for the new house, for the new building. And of course, out of that, there come other questions like how to connect the building to the public space, how this building should communicate, and how this building should develop space inside that space that can be an important part in development of the internal organization and internal life. One of the maybe this is actually the first house, private house that we built. It's a house very close to Ljubljana, and it's a house where the plot was bought because of these very nice woods, very nice forest beside. So the client bought this very small plot of 500 square meters, and they came to us. They want to have a house, but they want to have for them the most important thing was the view towards this forest. So what we propose is not to do the simple traditional house, which you see here, no? Of course, but maybe how to reuse or how to overturn these elements to gain something different, which would be enjoying the sun, having benefits of the sun, at the same time having benefits of the view towards the woods. And the house looks like this. That means that you have a south-facing window which collects the sun and also works as a kind of heater in the winter. And then you have a big window which offers you the view towards the woods, and also incorporates a contemporary way of living. That means that the living room is more like a loft, and the bedrooms are more like a container, completely sunken into the garden. They have no garden; they have just a wooden terrace, which is their outside space, outside living room. There is another example of how I think question of sustainability, question of reusing existing is treated or can be treated. Again, the client bought a house in the city of Ljubljana, old house, but with a beautiful garden. The old house looked like that, built in socialist time. It's actually just one of the two houses, because it's a double house. And of course, the biggest question was how to use this garden, how to connect the garden with the house, because this was the main reason. And most of the houses in the past were built not with a direct connection to the garden. They were just spaces for living, nothing more. No? And we proposed to have a kind of additional element, a living room, kind of instrument that sits in the garden. The shape of which is based on the lines that were drawn in the urban plan. But at the same time, it would be clearly somehow different from the existing. So the existing would be just renovated, isolated from the inside, because it was a house built 40 years ago with almost no isolation. But the new house would be a kind of frame, a kind of stone put in the garden, and that would be the new living room, connected and surrounded by the greenery. This is how it looks, and from the outside. It's very simple structure, concrete structure, which is insulated from the inside, and then with the big windows facing the garden to the three sides. And now a completely different situation. It's in the center of Ljubljana. It's in a neighborhood where you have a lot of small villas from different periods of time. You have apartment blocks, you have schools. It's kind of almost like a garden city. It's facing the location is facing the main river of city of Ljubljana. You can see the river, and this is the site this is the old house, which was demolished because it was completely broken and rotten from the inside because of some technical problems. And at the same time, in the neighborhood, there were very nice some modernistic villas. So the complete neighborhood had a very special feeling. It was this kind of feeling of diversity, feeling of coexistence of different periods of time, of different styles. And we were very much interested how to somehow contribute and how to set in this surrounding. So we did several tests how to do a new house from something which would look the same as old one and something which would be completely different, like a stack of the lofts. And the concept of the house was that it should relate all the time to the surrounding and enjoy the surrounding and being like a stack of spaces, like a shelf of apartments. There are 3 apartments on this in this building. Again, it's very simple concrete structure. This is the reality of the building site, which again I think it's very interesting because we always think that architecture is something that you draw and it should be like this. Reality, how to get to something, it's completely different. So I understand architecture more a kind of a process in which you try to incorporate many different things from the context, from the program, from the budget, from energy views, and all these things form a kind of cloud of complex conditions. House being built, and you see they have like already a very simple structure, very simple detailing, and very simple spaces which are being finished again with just polished concrete, and then the glazing was put inside. So the building is very much glazed. You can say too much. Maybe it's not completely a complete glass box, but it's half-half. And I must say that actually the house enjoys the views, enjoys the sun in the winter, and it's also very comfortable in the summer because it's you shade yourself with the trees, you shade yourself with the external blinds, but there is also installed cooling into the ceiling. We just use cold water from the terrain, and the house is being cooled very easily in a very simple way. So, in the sense of energy, is in fact very efficient. These are the spaces inside, and how it's being used and how it's being populated with all the things that we put and bring inside. And again, with the relation towards the city and the surrounding neighborhood and the river. One very important thing is that we should not forget that every house is, of course, a house, but at the same time it's also part of the city, and the same part it belongs to individual person, it belongs to the family, and all these individuals also form a certain kind of society. So I think when you do the housing project, making and establishing a feeling of community, it's a very important thing. At the same time, also establishing a feeling for the privacy for the individual. So for us, the housing projects are mostly about this: how to deal between these two things, how to establish the environment, which is at the same time allows to grow a community, because the communities grow through time, and at the same time should be able to offer a shelter and privacy for the individual. This is interesting because it's a housing complex. There are actually 3 complexes which we built in 3 different time periods, every 5 years almost. There were 3 competitions, we won each of them, and then we were able at the end to connect all this in one let's say, big connected housing of 3 different things. So the first one is that one on the left. It was a very strange urban plan, kind of postmodern IBA, 6 buildings symmetrically set. And for us, it was a question how to develop the space in between, which was just defined as green, into something which is more, which is like a programmatic park with different kinds of elements, uses, surfaces, and this would be the connecting tissue, a kind of glow for the social life, for the community of the housing. And because the apartments were really small, they were like cells. This was like one apartment here. And there were quite so many people living inside, or were planned. In each of the houses, there were like 13 apartments, I think. And for us, it was a question how to establish the relation between the inside and the outside, and it happens through this balcony, which is set outside. It's a kind of suspended box, like this. Again, a kind of instrument between the inside and the outside, between the private and the more public communal space on the outside. These are the spaces in between. We were also very much interested about the prefabrication, how the facades and buildings would be put together, and at the end, of course, how this internal space between the houses would develop. Then, after several years, there was this other housing where we were able to develop also the urban plan, and we proposed to have a half-built, half-open layout. It means they have a house, and then you have a square, which is an open space, which is kind of a garden square, and again a house. So it's like a check pattern of outside and closed spaces. Very simple structures, again apartments like cells, and the outside space, which again for me it's the main reason and the main meaning of the housing settlement project. And of course there are also inside spaces, and there are outside spaces, or kind of feeling of the house is very much closed, and then you have a very, very open and connected outside. And then after 5 years again, they came the third housing, again competition, where we tried to connect everything in a kind of red line, kind of a public space which starts here, connects through the third one, and then somehow turns and goes back to the second housing project. And for us, it was a kind of hybrid between the two. So we had 2 or 3 different typologies, and the outside space, which was a hybrid of park and square, of a street, of greenery and of paved surfaces. That would be again in the use of the users. And we try to go a bit further also with the developing of the spaces. So we have very small buildings with very small courtyards, and you have bigger buildings with the internal courtyards which were glazed from the top, and there were the big buildings where they were also inside open outside courtyards, again a space for developing the community feeling. I will jump now to public buildings. This is the faculty building which we are building in Brussels. It's a faculty building. It's a school, university building for Flemish community in Brussels. And for us, it was very much interesting how you can develop a project which would be set in this kind of very dense situation. There's a city all around, there is no free space, almost no street life, no squares, and this is the location. And there was a lot of program, really a lot of program to put on the site. It means a lot of faculty program, a lot of offices, a lot of lecture rooms, and there was one existing building we wanted to incorporate. It's this one, a former storage building, and the main theme for this was how the building can grow on the inside, how the building can develop the space on the inside. Because if the building works well, if the building is functional in a way, and the building is also very flexible, that can be used in many ways, it means that the building can also last for a long time. It means that the building can be changed and reused and rebuilt from the inside. And this is something that we wanted to achieve. That means doing a building which is very dense, with a lot of floors, but at the same time with establishing a space on the inside. It forms a square from the outside, and this square is, of course, some element which again connects the building to the outside. And on the inside is just layers of program, but with very open ground floor, which is semi-public, with a very simple structure and very also very transparent spaces on the top, so you can actually enjoy or you can be part of the life of the faculty all the time. And finally, of course, preserving and integrating the existing building, which becomes part of the new complex, which is which is this. This. In the city of Ljubljana, we won a competition for a national theater, or rebuilding or renovating a national theater. This is the building, which of course it's an Austro-Hungarian building from the past, and it's a kind of almost like a type of building. That means it was planned and built for small cities. It was built for a city of 50,000 inhabitants, not for a city of the size of Ljubljana, which has now maybe 200,000 inhabitants. And after many years, there is a plan to renew the complete complex with many additional theater spaces, services, etc. And again, for us, it was not just this fact how to put these things inside, but it was more a question how to revitalize the complete situation, how the new building would not be the main thing, but actually the old building would stay as a main element and would become again the focus point in the city, a trigger for developing of the trigger of public life and of public space in the city. So the main programs, like the big foyer, was not put in front, was not put beside, but it was put under the old building, and it will become a kind of hub for the public life. And of course, the new building, which is behind, you can see the new building, new service elements, are more like a background for the existing building. And the new foyer, which is installed under the building, here is again just something that brings space and tries to bring the existing building back to the city life. And for me, this is the real question: how to bring and how to bring the existing buildings back to the city, and how to use the existing buildings in a way that they are not changed and they are not renovated in a completely improper ways, but they are actually just preserved and being put in a use, in a contemporary use, but at the same time keeping the existing appearance, keeping the existing also relation to the city, which is there, but it's not visible anymore. So this is how the building should look after it's finished. There is a project for a library in Ljubljana that we are doing. It's a new national library. So it's addition. It's not real addition, but it's a pair with the existing famous library built by Jožef Plečnik. You can see this building here. This is the National Library, which I actually showed in the beginning of my presentation, which is famous because of this very beautiful, of course, articulation, but also because of this beautiful reading room which is inside. And it's, like I said before, a kind of symbol for Slovenian nationality, because it was like the first building that was built in the new country in the beginning of the 20th century. But the new location, which is very close, which is like 100 meters away, it's also a location which is very complex. There is Roman ruins, Roman city, because under city of Ljubljana there is a Roman city under the existing structure. So this is the city of Emona, built like 2,000 years ago. And there is, of course, question how to use the existing, how to use the history, how to use the historical parts, something that it's not just there and obstructs the situation, but as something that can help and grow the new situation. You can see all these ruins on the site. This is the site, the existing building of National Library of Jožef Plečnik and the location for the new library. So they would be a kind of pair working together. And we proposed, rather than making a building which connects to the existing block, but to press and compress the building in the kind of box, which would be of course higher, but at the same time also being able to introduce two new urban spaces, two new squares, public spaces, you can say as a kind of gift that city gives back, that the library gives back to the city, but at the same time also need this space for its own life. And rather than keeping the existing structure of Roman city somewhere below in the basement. We have put the building on the level of the Roman ruins, and the new building would grow. What's that? Maybe I can continue. And the new building would actually grow from the spaces in between. So the idea was to use the public space of the Roman city, the streets, the spaces, which are actually on the level of -2 meters, as a new beginning, a new surface from which the library would grow. And like that. Okay. I go back. So this would be so the new building is actually set in between the old walls, and for us the coexistence of the new and the old is very important, because it shows that the new and the old can coexist, and that it's not necessary to hide the old, but you can use it as a starting point, as a kind of yeast for a new development. These are the top levels in a very simple structure with a structure set on the perimeter, with the shelves of the library on the side of the building, and with the internal space, which is the new reading room. It's more like a platform for all the events that actually happen in contemporary libraries, because contemporary libraries are not the same as the libraries from 19th or from 19th century, but they're actually libraries which can host a lot of events, life, and many things. It's not just a place for a book. It's a place for communication. And this is how the eternal space is being designed. And of course, there are references. These are columns by Plečnik, and this is our inside, where we aim that actually the inside of the building is not different than the outside. It goes for the same structure. And this is the structure of the building also becomes the feeling and appearance of the building. And the two squares which connect the new building to the city. I hope I have time for 2 more projects. The title of my presentation is what's the title? Experiment of Diversity. So here we have diversity. It's something that brought a lot of polemics and a lot of discussions in Ljubljana, because it's a project for a mosque, or a project for Islamic culture, religious and cultural Islamic center in Ljubljana. It's the only project like that in Ljubljana, and I think it's also a very unique opportunity to build something like that, especially in the city of Ljubljana, where actually, of course, it's a city where there is no tradition like that. But at the same time, there is a community of Muslim people, which mostly came from Bosnia, not just after the last war in Yugoslavia, but also before, in the times of Yugoslavia, mostly as workers and as people that worked and contributed to Slovenian society, no? But they had never a space they can build their own church. And finally, after many years, they got a site, plot very close to the center, but very problematic because it was beside the railway. And for us, it was, again, this was an international competition, but for us, it was a question, again, how you can make this kind of location, this kind of project sustainable, but not just sustainable in a way that it should not be made out of plastic and not made out of and energy efficient, but also how it can be sustainable with a Slovenian society on the long time, you know. It means that how you can make a building a complex with such a program that can integrate into the city, and because there are many cases of building a mosque in Europe, in the West Europe, that you end up with something which is completely different and completely strange in the city structure. And our proposal was to make not a closed complex, but a complex that would be very much open towards the city, towards the public life. And it would be made as a kind of small city, kind of village or small city where you have all kinds of programs that were planned. Every program made as one building, and all these buildings would form actually a space, a public space, a square, a street, and it would connect to the city. So what we have is that we have in the middle a mosque, and then we have a school, which is here, then we have some office building, and there is apartment building, and there is also a restaurant, which is set in the lower level, and there are two parks, there is a sports hall, there is a garage. It means it's like a contemporary complex of different kinds of programs. This is the visualization from the competition. The space between the mosque and the other buildings, and also idea that contemporary religious space does not necessarily has to be designed as a traditional way, but you can also use traditional elements and put them, connect them, articulate them in a very contemporary way. So we have a glass box, and inside the glass box is textile dome, which is actually something that it's a sign for a mosque. But for us, it was also something much lighter. It was like a tent or like a contemporary art installation being suspended in the space of the mosque. And the outside would be turned around, the structure outside, the glazing inside, and it's of course very complex detailing, just to achieve very simple effect or very simple articulation at the end. The mock-ups on the building site and how the building is being built. This is the inside space, and the roof, just like a big suspended ceiling made out of small domes and glazed surface and the outside, and then like this connected with the additional programs buildings beside. The project is now being finished, so this public space is being made in a surface. You know, it's like a paved square with round stones, polished, and now the inside of other buildings is being finished again with very simple materials, with the concrete, polished concrete, wooden windows. So it was for us. It was how to use traditional elements like wooden windows, wooden surfaces, and contemporary materials like concrete in something that would belong to the users, but also belong to the city. And now I would like to finish with another very important project for us. I think it's very interesting because it's a museum. It's a renovation. It's renovation of a historical site. It's in Austria, actually not so far away from here. It's close to Vienna. And it's in the city of Wiener Neustadt, which is actually, it sounds like a new city, but it's not a new city, it's from the Middle Ages. And there was a city wall, which got completely covered with soil and earth during the centuries, and there was a space, a kind of storage space. They call it Casamata, and it means it was a storage for munition. It's for 12th, 13th, 14th century. And it was a project how to bring back this historical site to life, how to bring back these spaces like this, no? And to uncover the historical walls, and to build also a new museum or gallery space on top of this of this thing. And our proposal was not to build on top, but to build beside, and to use the existing structure as a kind of connecting tissue, connecting element which connects the new programs. So our proposal was to clean everything, no, which is not available from the centuries, and to install the two elements, which is the entrance element, kind of foyer. It's called Welcome Center in between the existing walls, and to install on the other side, to build on the other side the multifunctional space of the gallery, and to use the existing floor as a connecting element. It means that you come from the city, you go to the Welcome Center, and you enjoy and you walk through the existing structure, which is just preserved, to the new multifunctional space, which is on the other side. It's for the lectures, for the concerts, as an exhibition space, and then you can connect again to the outside. This is how it looks. So what we get a new entrance. It's a big space, a big square, which goes down, and with a big window. This is just opening to the new museum. The new square, of course, it's a new public space in the city. Again, it can be used for many different things: concerts, summer cinema, fairs, etc. You go inside, and you have this kind of space where you buy the ticket, and then which is made out of rough concrete, and then you go inside the existing cleaned structures, and they are just cleaned, and just new floor is made. There is addition of a concrete floor which goes and connects you to all other parts. These are the storage spaces, again just cleaned, and the new gallery space on the other side, which is of course completely different, contemporary, functional, flexible, which connects to the outside, and can host many different programs. This is how we go out, and this is the new building. And just a short overview of the process of the building, the romantic situation, but completely overgrown and forbidden and forgotten. Something missing. Okay. And how the building, how everything is being cleaned, built. This welcome center is being installed between the old walls, and then you go inside. And there are actually really magnificent spaces, very high really beautiful spaces. No? You don't see this so often. On the other side, again, everything cleaned, and the new gallery space is installed in the space behind, and then is being connected. And this is the situation now on the location, and I think in April should be already finished. Okay, this is the last slide. What I wanted to show or to explain with my presentation that the complexity of conditions in which we have to work, in which we work, that we see this complexity as a starting point, and actually that something that sustainable, something that it's lasting, something that lives long, can only be something that can grow out of this complexity. That's something that takes in account all kinds of things. And of course, being energy efficient is one thing, but also being something that is connected to the public, something that's flexible, something that it's very simple, that can be used and reused in many different ways during the future years is, for me, the basic starting point for the sustainable society in which we want to live. Thank you.